Welcome back to GearWire.com. I'm Owen O'Malley, and this is the Focusrite VoiceMaster Pro. The VoiceMaster Pro is part of Focusrite's Platinum series of signal processors, studio signal processors. So it is one of their more budget-friendly processors. It's under $700. And for under $700, you get a very, very nice solid-state mic pre with a ton of features that are very useful for recording vocals. It's also good for recording acoustic instruments, for recording bass guitar direct into it. There's a high Z input. It's got a number of different applications, not just for voice, even though it does have a lot of features that are specifically tailored for vocal recording. Let's just go over some of the features on the back, or some of the connections on the back. There's a lot of different routing options on this guy. Okay, so we're looking at the back panel here. We've got a second mic input, although it's still channel 1. Underneath that is a line input. Just to the left of that, you'll see we've got an insert, send, and return. Now, the VoiceMaster Pro has an optional ADDA converter card that turns the unit into a USB audio interface, a 2-channel USB audio interface. And so Focusrite has put a lot of routing options so that you can use the VoiceMaster Pro as sort of the core of your home studio. As such, there's an insert here to sort of insert any additional outboard gear onto the channel. To the left of that, we've got our output section. So you can see we've got on the top a plus 4 dB pre-de-esser output. Right now we're listening to the plus 4 dB output. The balanced output, just the main balanced output. To the left of that, we've got something called a 10 dBV output. You'll notice just sort of the up and to the left of that, there's an effects loop. The effects loop is post EQ section. Just another way of inserting outboard gear, outboard effects. To the left of that, there's our monitor routing. There's a monitor direct in left and right and a monitor out left and right. There's a nice zero latency monitoring control on the front of this thing. And then this little guy all the way by himself on the left here is the ADC external input. That is just a direct line level input. That is the second channel right there. There's no preamp, none of the controls on the front of this thing affect that direct input. And that input is only activated when you get that optional ADDA converter card. Okay, let's take a look at the front panel, the first couple of modules on the front panel. So we've got a lot of different modules on this thing, each with its own specific function and purpose, and each with its own set of controls. They are listed along the front here from left to right. The discrete Class A preamp, our vocal expander, vintage harmonics, optical compressor, tube sound, voice optimized EQ, and a de-esser, and then our master output section over here. We're going to split this up into 2 videos, and we're going to first take a look at the preamp and the 2 compressors, the 2 optical, sort of dynamics processors here, the optical expander, which is also a noise gate, and the optical compressor. So let's take a closer look first at the preamp section. So our first module here, or the controls in this first module, just are the direct preamp controls here. We've got our 48V phantom power engaged right now because we've got this AKG C414 condenser. Under here, we've got the instrument input. Now, when you insert a jack into the instrument input, it defeats the mic input. If you want to engage the line input on the back, we've got our line input engaged right here. So you see everything turns off. There's a phase switch. And right down here, we've got a little a low frequency shelf. So you can hear there's a lot of room noise in here. Let's turn this on. And it starts to cut out some of that low level HVAC rumble, and also some mic handling noise. And if it gets too much, then everything kind of gets shrill. But you keep it right around the sort of 80 to 100 hertz, and it doesn't affect vocals too much. Let's take that out. You hear it even gets rid of some of the boominess inherent in close mic'd vocals. All right, let's leave that in for now. And this is our mic gain right here. Hello, hello, hello. Ha! We've got a nice 6-segment LED monitoring our gain. Ooh, that's quite a bit right there. Okay. Here's our optical expander right here. Your optical expander is basically it's a noise gate, but it's not a solid or rather a flat gate. It's not in an infinity ratio gate. It is a soft knee. We've basically got simple controls here. Along the bottom of all these modules are little in buttons. You can take each module in and out of the process. When they're out, they are directly bypassed, so they don't add any noise or signal degradation. Let's bring the optical expander in. Click. And now you can hear it's getting rid of, anytime I don't talk, it's getting rid of that background noise. Well, sort of. Let's bring the threshold up a little bit. Okay. Now you'll hear that when I'm talking, you can still hear the background noise, and when I stop, there is a little bit of a release time. That's adjusted via release. Ha. See, now it's almost an instant shut off. But it still is a soft knee gate. Soft knee gating gets rid of a little bit of that it's sort of like choppiness inherent in a noise gate, so that if I talk a little bit lower, you can still hear me, and there isn't that much of that sort of almost like burbling noise that happens when you're right on the threshold of an infinity ratio noise gate. Let's move over to the optical compressor here. Okay, so I've taken the optical expander out of the process. Let's bring the optical compressor into the process. Simple controls on this optical compressor. We've got makeup gain, which you're hearing, which is why there's a little bit more background noise. We've got a threshold control. We've got a release control. There's a hard ratio or soft ratio, slow or fast attack. And then you can also engage this post EQ button to actually put the compressor after the EQ module, sort of virtually move the module to the right in the signal chain. Let's look at this threshold control. It's kind of neat the way it's set up. If we have it all the way counterclockwise, our threshold is actually at the highest, which is negative 15 dB. And we bring that even lower by turning it to the right, which may seem at first counterintuitive, but actually, if you bring the threshold lower, you are compressing more of the signal. So your sort of compression effect is increased as you bring the threshold lower. So that's why that kind of makes sense. It's a soft knee compression, although we can make it a hard knee, closer to a brick wall limiter. Let's just hear the sound of that. So if I talk louder, that's the soft knee. And if I talk louder, that's the hard ratio. It's a little bit less forgiving. Let's bring it back to a soft knee. You can do slow attack, which is really great for picked bass, because you get or even clean, sort of like country guitar, because it adds a real percussive sort of effect to picked instruments, plectrumed instruments. Take that back out. And we can control our release time. If we bring our release up, we get that crazy radio kind of release. And we bring the release down, and it's just quicker. More transparent, if you will. And our makeup gain is down here. Okay. We'll take a look at the other modules in the next video in this two-part series. So that was part one of our two-part look at the Focusrite VoiceMaster Pro. In the second video, we're going to take a look at the remaining three modules and try to get a good sort of vocal sound for singing, for my singing voice. All right. You've been watching GearWire.com. I'm Owen O'Malley. See you soon.